They want your money, but they don't want you. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to share with you guys some things that I think you guys should be aware of if you are planning on coming to the US to study. These are things that I've just, noticed, and things that I think are important to know before you finally, come over here to start studying. Before we get into this video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, like this video, share with your friends and family, join the family, because I promise you won't regret it. Let go. So without further ado, let's get started. So the first thing I think you should be aware of is that jobs here are very, very, very competitive. So depending on your major, there are only a handful of companies that are willing to sponsor international students, and by sponsor I mean like willing to file for you to get H-1B visa. So there are only a handful of companies that are willing to do that, and we have millions of international students here. So getting a job here after graduation is very, very competitive. You have to up your game. Like, you have to be on your A game at all times. Also, even getting an internship while you're still studying is also very competitive. It's very difficult to get one, and if you get one, good for you, but it's very, very competitive. It's very difficult to get one. So it's the same thing with jobs. And also there are certain fields that are willing to sponsor more than the others. I'm not exactly sure about other fields, but for engineering, I know it's a bit difficult to get a company that will sponsor you for engineering roles like mech engine or civil or any really core engineering role. But for technology, there are a lot more opportunities in technology. So that includes like anything in IT, but mostly like in data science, software engineering, all those type of roles, they are more willing to sponsor. And so that's something you should be aware of. So that also ties in with like choosing the right major that will help you get a job here in the US if you want to study here. So you can't just pick any type of major. You have to do your research and see where the opportunities are at, because I can tell you that it is not in every field that a company is willing to sponsor you. So that's just something you have to be aware of. Jobs are competitive, and there are very limited fields where companies are willing to sponsor you or file for you. Also, something you have to be aware of is that working while you're studying here is very restricted. So you're only allowed to work like 20 hours a week on campus here in the US. So if you're looking for a country where you're allowed to work unrestricted, and so you can be able to pay your bills and your tuition while you're going to school, the US may not be exactly the best place for you, just because like everything is so restricted here. Jobs to foreigners are very restricted here. So that's something you have to keep in mind. You have to know where to look to find what you need. You also have to keep to the guidelines so you don't fall out of status and all of that. That's something important to note. Also, for me personally, I feel like the US isn't very welcoming of immigrants and foreigners and all of that. They want your money, but they don't want you. Especially with this 2020, and like they made a string of like policies that were not really favorable to international students or foreigners, and I was just like, what? International is bringing a lot of money into the US economy, but for some weird reason, I don't know, they're just not very receptive of internationals and foreigners. Like, they're not very, the people are friendly, but when I say very receptive, like the policies are not exactly very favorable to foreigners and immigrants and stuff like that. There are a lot of things that are restricted from you. You have to be aware of that. If your long-term plan is to get a job and eventually settle down here, that will be a very long road. So like PR and citizenship, that I'm laughing because I'm thinking about it, and it's a very, very long road to that here in the US. There are many other countries where the path to citizenship or PR is not as tedious and long as it is here in the US. So if that is your long-term goal, for studying abroad, my dear, I would urge you to reconsider coming to the US, because if you're not ready to stay here for like 15, 20 years or more before you get your citizenship or anything like that, my G, I advise you start looking somewhere else. It's a sad reality, but yeah. So So take for example, when COVID started and schools closed for the semester and we're making plans for the next semester, ICE came out with a policy, I think that was in July, that international students who are in the US currently and their schools are planning to move everything online, they would have to leave the US. If not so, they'll be forced to take face-to-face classes. And it makes you wonder, like, why would they make such a policy? Because it's not our fault that COVID-19 started and that it's just a sensible thing to move things online. When they made that policy, it just made a lot of international students feel like they were not being valued, and they felt like they just wanted their money, but they didn't want them there. They didn't value them as human beings there. It was just a very uncomfortable situation for everybody. The big schools like Harvard and MIT, they fought against that policy. Eventually they won, and so the policy was revoked. But I'm saying all this to say that sometimes they make policies here that are not favorable, and then you have things like increase in filing fees that kind of make things difficult for international students, and you're not allowed to work, but at the same time you have to pay this increased amounts in fees and all of that. It's just a lot of things that make international students here feel like they're not very welcome, and it just feels like they want your money but they don't want you. Anyway, that's just the way I felt about it. I don't know about other people, but that was just my take on it. I really feel like the US can do a lot more to make our international students feel more welcome and foreigners feel more welcome. There are a lot of countries that are doing wonderful things to make foreigners feel welcome and know that, hey, we value you and all of that. So I think the US can learn from them. Also, another thing to keep in mind is the cost of living. So you have to really consider your finances. Like, you have to be very strong financially to want to come here and study, because cost of studying here is ridiculously high. Like, it is super high. The average tuition for international undergraduate students is about $15,000 per semester. That is the average, meaning it could be higher, it could be lower. I know some schools where they pay about $20,000 per semester every single semester for undergraduate international students. You just have to be mindful of that. And then cost of living is also a bit high here, so you just have to also be mindful of that. Do your research, know your financials well, and be sure that you can sustain yourself with minimal work before you come over here. Also, something that I think a lot of people don't really consider is like social life and how the interactions with the local will be. I think generally Americans are friendly when they want to be. But I think generally, most of the people I've met, at least in my state, they're very friendly and everything. But on a larger scale, like especially with things like race and class and stuff like that, it's like a very, especially race is like a very touchy subject in America here. And especially this year, racial tensions have just been over the roof. Like, it's crazy. Being black in America is a feat. Being black, I'm just trying to make light of the situation because I don't want it to be too deep, too serious. But the truth is that being black in America it's not a very encouraging situation. So you just have to be mindful of that. I think the important things you have to really check for when you're choosing a country to study abroad in is cost of living, job prospects after graduation, ability to work while you're still studying, and then how it will be interacting with the locals and the whole social kind of atmosphere here. There are many other things you can consider, but I think for me, these ones are important things that you have to absolutely look at. So yeah, if you're an international student who is studying in the US or any other country, you can leave in the comment section down below what factors you considered when you were choosing a country to study abroad, and what was the defining moment or defining factor for you. And let's have a conversation in the comment section below, and I will see you guys in my next one. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button to like this video, share with your friends and family, and yeah, thank you. I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye.